Hello and welcome, everybody. I think this is going to be an interesting conversation because time and time again, how many times have you seen, oh my gosh, non-believer debating a theist, blah blah blah. Like those conversations are all too much very, very common, but I've never actually seen anything like this before. I have an I have a Gnostic atheist here, whereas I'm more of an agnostic atheist, and we're gonna go over why we have those slight minor differences despite both not really believing in God. So I think yeah, I wanna hear you first. What makes you more Gnostic than I am agnostic, I guess?
Um, First, I would say in my position, I've always been an atheist, so I've never been convinced for an argument of God.
Mm-hmm.
And as I've kind of aged and learned some things on the subject, I've just noticed other patterns of religion through the world religions,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that it paints a different picture than the idea of any type of God. There's a concept of God, and
Mm-hmm.
then there's the gods in each specific religion.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, when each religion, if they do create a god in their religion,
Mm-hmm.
they're creating some kind of, they're trying to fix some kind of lack of faith in humanity that they have, or they're trying to fix something
Yeah, yeah,
that they
like
don't see.
a cope essentially, right? Admittedly.
Well, not a quote. They're trying to form some kind of ideal person of society, so they're trying to form some
Mm-hmm.
understanding of themselves. So I think religion is really just about the human condition and the human experience and a kind of an introspective take on that. So that's why each religion kind of has similar ideas of, the golden rules and general ideas of ethics.
Yeah,
There's an idea of basic human rights that everybody seems to understand.
yeah, I find it kind of funny actually because people think that like or people talk like religion is like where we get like all these like ways to like treat each other well, even though these are actually just common things that like most people believe in regardless of no religion or what specific kind of religion. So at least like for me, I find it kind of dumb that people think they need this sort of thing. I think they need to just ascribe, am I even using the right word? Oh, yeah, prescribe whatever, that like there's some higher power that like dictates everything they say. But I think like it kind of sounds lazy to me because like, obviously if the thing that you believe in is a higher power, it just has to make sense by a default because oh my gosh, you're a human, you can't comprehend a higher power, so you must just trust the higher power at like its authority. Like it's kind of weak.
Yeah, well, it's some sort of artificial construct that,
Hmm.
I think it's interesting, the idea of religion. I don't really knock it too much because it's interesting to understand. And like I said, it's more about the human condition and human experience. And I find humans very interesting.
Hmm.
So, like, and I found if you and I agree that religion is an artificial construct, not just God because it's something man made,
Hmm.
religion to me is something that came before we had society, even. So, really, that's, where we're, again, just being self-reflective, trying to find the best ways to live first amongst nature
Hmm.
and trying to master nature. And that's why some early religion was about shamanism or paganism,
Hmm.
about going with the flow of things. But as we master the flow of things, then we form society, and you know our perceptions and ethics and moralities had to change along with it. And that's just it's always been an ongoing, give and take of those two things.
Hmm. Hmm. So I don't know. I think I should try to like bring this like back on track. I guess like so
Yeah.
you think there is no definite God, right?
Yeah, definitely no God.
But
Like it's an artificial construct, like
mhm,
again, another artificial construct would be like country. And again, the idea of like country is to put this idea of,
mhm,
something above man or mankind where we
mhm,
can try to all follow the same kind of ideals and same values so we can
mhm.
not be greater than the individual, we can be the many, have it's kind of like the same idea
So
of
mhm,
religion, like they're putting the idea of God or this idea of a perfect person ahead of themselves, and they're trying to strive for this part of humanity that's,
Mm-hmm.
fixes the sin or the problems that they see in humanity that of their current times. If people are stealing or killing or
Yeah, yeah.
whatever the deal is, they're gonna create a god or an
Mm-hmm.
idea of a god that's perfect, that is above that. And we do that all the time in fiction. There's like
Mm-hmm.
Arthurian legends where we did the same thing in the Dark Ages,
I
which is,
uh, I
go ahead, sorry.
agree. No, I agree that it's all like artificial, but I think like since my position is more agnostic atheist, it's kind of more so that I think that like the current supposed evidence that like theists and religious people present are very much, yeah, kind of like we established like artificial and like fallacious, but I guess like if you think that there definitely is no God, then I guess like the question I simply would have to ask though is that like so you don't believe it's at all possible. I don't knock that it's possible. It's just that the evidence has to be better than what humanity has presented so far.
Um, sorry, give me a minute. So the idea is like that we could one day discover the idea of God.
Yeah, because I think because like even if we take it from like a scientific perspective, which I think at least on a practical level you would approach more as also somebody like non-religious, we're supposed to lead where the evidence quote unquote like takes us, right? So I think like theoretically there could be a God, but it has to be an explanation. It has to be conceivable in the sense that like yeah, this isn't artificial. This isn't a very fallacious thing. It's yeah, like I would still have a whole bunch of questions as much as like any other atheist. Like, okay, is this really God? Is this not just propagated on, let's say, mass hysteria? Or because like that's what it looks like, admittedly, when people say that, like, oh, we believe in God. So many people believe in God, but I'm just like, okay, if everybody believed a wrong belief, that doesn't make that belief any more true. So, you know, I don't think that we should knock the possibility that there's a God. It's just that like there isn't a good representation of that now. So like that's kind of I guess more so where I'm leaning. So I guess like yeah. So you don't think it's possible at all from what it sounds like. If that's the case, then what, like how do you know? I guess ultimately.
Well, in kind of like in epistemological terms, if
Mm-hmm.
I was to say how confident I am that we would never discover
Mm-hmm.
or that the idea of a God would never be proven, I would say it's like high 99%. It's like almost 100%. I'll leave a little bit for doubt in case I could be wrong,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm pretty sure it could never happen. And in my moment, how I reach my stance of Gnostic atheism right now is
Mm-hmm.
because currently at this moment we have zero proof. We know that there's zero proof of any God, or
Mm-hmm.
even that there could be a God that really needs to form our natural world. And I guess on top of agnostic atheism, on top of maybe being a skeptic,
Mm-hmm.
on top of that, I'm more of a naturalist. I can
Oh yeah,
choose a
me
lot of
too.
labels, but
Actually,
things
yeah,
like that. But it's naturalism all the way down.
yeah. I think that makes
From
like way more sense on like a practical level. But then like, how do you feel, for example, about like I might be butchering this stance because I haven't actually like looked into it as extensively as I might have to before, but like have you heard of the concept of like deism, for example?
yeah, I'm a little bit familiar with it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think like so my understanding of that basically is like okay, like theoretically if there is a God, he created the universe, our universe, he created us, but he just doesn't like interfere. I think it would then be true that like there could be a God, but of course because of what he did, because he doesn't choose to like, interact with like his creation and whatnot, it would very much look like he doesn't like exist whatsoever. And I think that's the only thing, because like hypothetically, we don't have to change each other's minds per se. This is just a discussion. I don't know if you want to call this a debate or like
Exactly.
whatever, but like because like at
Just a
least
discussion.
I'll say this if you think you can like get around it, because I think like this is one of the highest things that actually makes me an agnostic atheist, because it sounds like there could be a God, but he's simply just not provable or like disprovable. So on a practical basis, I'm atheist because I think it makes more sense to go about that. But yeah, if there is a God and he created everything and he just decided to like leave everything alone, then I don't think anyone can disprove that. Do you think you can disprove that?
Well, I don't think he needs to be disprovable. He just needs to be provable. And the most ways, again, that we have an idea or even know what a God is, not that like we have many concepts of gods, but often the gods that are identified are like the Christian God, the Hindu God,
Mm-hmm.
and whatever gods of a religion that do have gods. the
Mhm.
Greek gods and
Okay,
other such things.
but
So
then
again, like,
sure.
you know, um, actually, sorry, go ahead. I lost my train of thought.
Oh no, I was gonna say because I think like, well, yeah, I agree with that, but I don't think that would necessarily disprove the deist position. Still, I mean, I know I said it's not like provable either, but like if that were the case, there still could be a God, but people just have the wrong interpretation of them because if yeah, the Christian God, the Islamic God, like whatever, like they want to project that there's this God that like cares about us, supposedly gives us a chance, this or that, then God could exist. They simply just have the wrong interpretation of him. If the right interpretation of him is simply just a God that doesn't like give a shit about us whatsoever.
So again, if we go back to disproving a god, we can disprove the Christian God, we can disprove the Hindu God, or you
Mhm,
can argue against their idea of their concept of a God. And
mhm,
and for Christianity, I would say I'm more well versed in arguing against them just as an American
mhm,
arguing against Christian culture. But you know, you can theoretically do it for all the religions because they're all artificial constructs in a way. It's more about revealing human nature and human experience and human condition
mhm,
than it is about revealing a god or getting authority from God or getting revelation from God.
mhm.
Most things that are divine aren't really from a divine source. They're just they come from still from us. They just ring super true to us because it aligns with our human nature or part of our human condition.
Yeah, yeah. I agree with that in the sense that I think that like yeah, it does look very like human and like artificially makes like essentially the things that a god, regardless of like what religion you believe in or something, like are basically it just has the abilities that humans wish they had. Like for example, omniscience, like infinite knowledge or omnipotence, like an
Yeah,
infinite amount of like power. Like these all sound like things that humans essentially wish they had or like had the highest ability to like perform, but we don't. So we project it on towards this like idea of God. So that in which I can agree with.
well, maybe an idea of God is just another, again, it's a personification of the human condition. And so, like, the first idea of religion with like paganism and shamanism,
Mhm,
nature was God and had many things like that. And then after we mastered nature, we personified ourselves as God. And
mhm,
that's where we got, a lot of the Roman and all these other kind of Greek kind of mythologies. And then it just kind of progressed further and further from there. And that's just a microcosm. If you look at how people develop religion in just that part of the world,
mhm.
if you go to another, like in the eastern part of the religion, they're still moving towards the same ideas of like, human rights and human conditions, but they're exploring it because they have different challenges, different
Sure.
geographical areas, different cultural things that they came across that is successful to them because
Mhm,
again, like religion came before society. So like we have to think about it like on the timeline.
mhm.
Humankind has been around for 300,000 years. Society's been around for about 12,000 years. So like most of our human evolution comes from living in these nomadic small cultures, of about small groups of people, where we formed a good sense of us,
Oh,
even though we
okay.
had a sameness with other groups. But, there was always that sense of tribalism, but society brought us together and brought different challenges. And
Oh,
again,
yeah.
we
So
personified different things.
yeah. So
So
I.
again, like,
Oh, sorry.
what is a god to you? I'm sorry, like, so if we're not talking about a specific god, because you're
Mhm.
not, a religion person, I'm sorry, a religious person,
Yeah.
you're an agnostic. So, like, what is your concept of God and where is this God?
Oh,
And
okay.
what does he do and like what does he want us to do
Oh,
and
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
anything that you might interpret you're just kind of you're going off your own will a
Mhm.
little bit,
Yeah.
your own desire.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you like a similar question because like from like all the things that we've been talking about, I think like we more or less agree because like yeah, I know like I'll keep going back to the whole like artificial thing or like the belief necessary in terms of like that society and that point in time. I think yeah, that's why different religions have different structures depending on like what part of the like world's like history that like you're looking at. So I think like I guess I wanted to ask you this then because maybe like I can see a more Gnostic atheist position, at least on this like form of like axiomatic reasoning. So do you think then religion by its nature has to be abstract and like undefinable? Because I know, for example, at least like in a Abrahamic interpretation, or yeah, religion is a very abstract thing, like in general. It's supposed to be beyond or above transcending like simple like human comprehension. And I think I could believe a more Gnostic atheist position if you like simply define it that way. But I think I am more agnostic about it because like I impose the challenge on people that are religious like in this manner because like okay, I could believe in a god theoretically, but it's like you have to make it like understandable because I think that like if there really is a being that's let's say all powerful, omnipotent, like omniscient or like something like that, then it's like I'm willing to believe that if you can actually demonstrate it. For example, not like a leap of faith because like for example, the greatest con man can make you believe in things that like are not true. So if we can say that for like, in that instance, like manipulation in that instance, then how do you know God's like simply like not the same thing? And because I know, let's say, a lot of people are extremely devoted to like their like religion or something, then I think I more so have this thing where it's like they would progress further if they did make religion more comprehensible. And if it is real, I don't think we should think that it's impossible that like we can get there. But kind of like what I said, I can see how, okay, it's all made up. If like, for example, you agree that by its nature, then it has to be undefinable. So is that why you would say you're a Gnostic atheist, or that's just the idea that I'm throwing? What would you say about that?
What was that very last part you said?
That religion by its nature or like spirituality has to be abstract and undefinable by its like default.
I don't think it's very abstract. I think it's very personal to the human condition, and that's
Mm-hmm.
why it grows in the areas and it's either successful or it's not. It's either going to thrive and become the dominant religion, or
Mm-hmm.
it's going to fizzle off and become a nothing belief. Like we have frivolous beliefs today that people believe that
Mm-hmm.
aren't going to last or make it into the history books.
Oh, so you think so you believe that with like enough time every religion's gonna reach its like peak and like die off and be replaced by another one.
There's been thousands of religions that's already been forgotten that
True.
none of us could ever freaking name. Even if we found like ancient text or
Mm-hmm.
whatever evidence of some older culture that we thought previously wasn't around, you
Oh,
know,
okay.
we might identify that they could have gone, but only because we assume that they're human and they have the human condition,
Yeah, yeah. So
and
so
they
yeah.
have the same kind of brain as us.
So you wouldn't believe, for example, that there theoretically could be a religion that could stand all the other ones? Because like I, from like, at least like from like an agnostic point, like I think yeah, I would agree with this. If there is an ultimate religion, just because there are so many religions, then I think like yes, so many of them default would be by default, have to either go extinct or like unprovable because the one that has to like stand out and be proven true above the rest, has to maintain itself and like not be a house of cards. So like then theoretically, why is that not possible?
Yeah, and again, for me and how I usually argue or try to steer it when I argue with more theist people is,
Mhm.
the common denominator in all religions is humans, like it's all comes from us, like, and we're all Homo sapiens. So
Oh,
again,
okay.
like we're all going to have the same kind of values. We're all going to have the same kind of basic human needs. And, history isn't perfect and people aren't perfect to each other, but we do have an idea of basic human universal
Sure,
needs
sure. So then
and
let's say,
rights.
yeah.
And,
Okay, okay.
and
Well, mhm.
we do clash, and that is a kind of a human thing with us. But,
Oh, yeah,
again,
sorry,
like
yeah. I
it's
know.
the artificial construct.
Mhm,
It's just, we can say we are God because, if we just say a God is something that
mhm.
creates and destroys, we're definitely creatures that can create and destroy.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sorry to like it seems like I'm like cutting you off, but it's like yeah, like I don't like yeah, when you say something, I don't want to forget like I guess like what I'm about to ask. So I think like yeah, I wanna ask then because yeah, I've noticed that yeah, you and I don't disagree with you, don't get me wrong, where it's like, okay, yeah, like I think people do need religion and spirituality as a way to like hold community together because I know, yeah, obviously you and I both know that like a lot of people prescribe
Yeah.
a lot of our morality through these like religious texts and like whatnot. So I guess like okay then let me ask you this then. Assuming that there is a God, or is it possible then that if a God could or will exist or does exist and we just don't have like the evidence for it, you keep mentioning people. So then I guess I see this as very unlikely. But then would you believe, for example, if all humans disappeared, if God does exist and he eradicated all humans except for you, then would you believe in him then? Because there would be no people to back it up. Then in that extremely, I bet, rare case, would that be the only way you could conceive that it is possible? more so possible that a God can exist.
I wouldn't reject evidence. I mean, if the evidence is this God removed all other people on Earth to
Mhm.
prove that to me, that would be a pretty loud and clear message to me in some way, I guess. Or if there was the other legit ways that God proved to other prophets or people, in some other manner. Or
Mhm.
again, if there is no specific religion that can reveal their God to me, and there is just this idea of God that we haven't yet identified, which maybe what I think you believe, that God can try to reveal itself to everybody because, if it created, if your idea is it created the universe, it would have cosmic powers. If your idea is it just created the planet, that's a different set of skills. If you say it was just a spark for life on Earth, then that's a whole different claim. But, this
Mhm.
idea of this empty idea of God that is just void and nameless and we can't disprove. It's just, I
Mhm.
don't think it's there because why are we disproving something that's nameless and not defined?
Mhm.
Again, like going back, we can say we're God because we can create and destroy and we're here. And again, the idea is we created religion, we created, everything we see in the world. Just the idea is we had time to do
Mhm.
this. We had time to evolve. We had time to develop culture and we had time to develop other ideas in philosophy.
Mhm. Yeah. So I guess like I think so. Then you would say the only way you would conceive God then is that like he would have to do it independent of our own thoughts, I guess. Because like, yeah, if we obviously developed all different kinds of like religions and like whatnot, but it's like if God with his supposed like theistic abilities put the biggest projector on like I don't know on top of the sky where like all humans had like no choice to like watch it, then you could see its legitimacy perhaps because
Right.
it's outside of our realm.
Well, here's another route I go with theists, and maybe I'll just see what your kind of take is and
Hmm.
see if this kind of rubs you the wrong way also. Because for me, let's just say if I don't believe in aliens, but I believe aliens exist maybe out there in the universe. I'll
More than
clarify
that.
and say I don't believe aliens have ever come to Earth. And in fact, I don't think it's possible that aliens could ever visit Earth.
Hmm.
So my idea is like we know that human or alien life could exist out in the universe.
Hmm.
It could exist millions or billions of years before the Earth was around, or even before any life was around on the Earth.
Hmm.
Or they can exist million of years after humans go extinct, or
Hmm.
they can exist so far away that they'd never be able to reach us, and vice versa. But
Hmm.
again, like my idea is, it's possible that alien life is possible because human life is possible. Like, look at us as a testament to life.
Hmm.
So I can't discount the idea that alien life is out there. I
Hmm.
just don't know if I'm just pretty darn confident, again, like 95% confident that aliens can't visit Earth.
So,
So, but, so again, sorry, let me finish this
oh,
thought
sorry,
because
sorry.
I'm really high.
No, it's okay.
So, like, if aliens were to come to Earth, that would immediately debunk every single Earth religion. So, like, it doesn't prove that there's a God because aliens have come to Earth, which
Hmm.
is say it doesn't matter if they're peaceful or destructive or whatever. It just aliens on Earth would debunk any world religion because it puts us as like the front and center and makes us that there's a God that made us with a purpose. And life could just be very random.
I mean, I don't know. It
That
might be. I mean, kind of off topic. Well, I mean, not really, but I kind of just think that's funny because, like, I don't know too much about it, or at least, like, obviously not like an obsessive level. But like, don't they say that Mormons believe in aliens? Or it's like they're
they
like that.
could
They're
they
like
could
this
just
weird
so
sci-fi version of Christianity.
here's my nice take like on like this flow of Mormons
Mhm.
from like Christianity, or I guess from Judaism to like Christianity, because like Judaism was like the dominant religion, and they had a prophecy, and then the Christians kind of stole the ball, said that they fulfilled the prophecy, and they made their own religion called Christianity. And
Yeah.
then for hundreds of years, they splintered off in denominations because they fought for power and internal politics and try to kill each other for this and that. And
Yeah.
eventually you get down to the Mormon line where they, in America, and they made the same claims that I think the Christians made on the Jews. Like, they say that they talk to God, that Joseph Smith is the prophet, and
Yeah.
he wrote a new Bible that is the superior Bible to the New Testament.
Hmm.
So they're running off this whole new system with
Hmm.
authority of God. based off like this like when he formed Mormonism, I'm sure he tried to make it contemporary by using the dominant religion. He was trying to fix ideas in his society or trying to give in to certain desires of their society
Mm-hmm.
and using Christianity as a authority or a basis for it, you know? So I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
he would have a much harder time, an uphill battle, if he wasn't using Christianity as a base, you know?
Yeah, it's kind of weird to me because like I kind of just get this impression that like so many also like as well as like so many Christian denominations I guess like only exist because they're having like a fucking like semantic battle in terms of how to interpret these
Yeah,
texts.
well, because they're always trying to have contemporary ethics. They're like, hey, your traditions are out of date. They don't rhyme with the current times, you know? And then they say, like, you don't know anything. We're going this way because this is how we interpret the Bible now. And they
Mm-hmm.
say, you know, no, you don't. We're going to go with our tradition. And, you know, there's so many different routes within the just Christianity. It's kind of silly. I'm sure there's so many different routes in all those Abrahamic religions, but that's just one Western religion thought,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And the idea is everything is together, you know, and it's Eastern and Western philosophy because again the common denominator is human beings.
Mm-hmm.
And I think trying to focus on just one religion is hard to disprove religion or God, but if you kind of put everything together it helps make more sense.
Yeah, yeah. So would you say, yeah, essentially, I think from what I've gathered here, and I think like it makes sense. So like essentially, you would say you're more Gnostic atheist just because it makes more sense on a practical level, right?
Well, currently, I mean, like I said, I can, you know, like I don't believe in aliens, but if they came to Earth I would certainly believe in aliens. So if God or not, if any specific religion's God wanted to reveal themselves to me or the world,
Mm-hmm.
cool. Or if they're this agnostic God that is yet to
Mm-hmm.
defines itself and shows itself that it then even would say like again we're just creating thoughts of God now if I have to fill anything inside. But you
Mm-hmm.
know, let's just say he created the Big Bang, but you know, life is still random. So if there was someone that can prove that the universe was designed, sure, but you know, it's more leaning towards naturalism.
Yeah, yeah. So I think like actually I dig this conversation because I don't know about you, but I think like going into it, I think it actually makes just as much sense why we believe the things that we do. Because I think even in a little bit, you can see why I'm an agnostic atheist, but I think I also do see why you're like a gnostic atheist because like the reason why I asked like if you believe it more so for like practical purposes, yeah, I will obviously debate or deny like you know if the topic comes up against like people that like are religious because I think on a practical level it makes more sense to not attribute anything to God because it seems like nonsensical and like unreasonable. But I also appreciate that, like you're saying that, like obviously, if hypothetically all these like you know new things that would make it like less artificial, kind of like what we've always been like talking about, you would also see where I'm coming from. So in a
I
way,
mean,
this is
I don't
confusing to me
see
because
like
like I
I
don't.
think right now you like I said you're a Gnostic atheist, and I'm sorry, you are a Gnostic atheist. You just think
No,
in
I don't think.
some time in the future God could be proven, not like any religious God, but you think a God could be proven. It doesn't
Yeah,
mean or if it's through science or another religion that's
yeah,
yet to be made.
yeah,
Yeah.
but you also agreed that if it were to hypothetically happen, then you would also accept the God. So like you're not entirely
Well, I
closed
can't.
off to
Yeah,
the idea.
I can't. As an honest person, I can't say I would deny something that made itself, would say in this hypothetical 100% evident. You know, so
Yeah, yeah.
I
So
would
I
be a
think like
fool
yeah,
just to
like
say I'm actually honest to that.
yeah. So like in this case, I think like I don't know. Is it more so a tomato thing then?
Right. Well, let's look at some of the examples again, because again, we have to go off some of the structure of religion. We can't just say like, again, I'm not going to disprove a God that's not defined. And if
Hmm.
you and I have to define any part of the God, then you and I are just arguing about fun things that we know through contemporary knowledge, right? You know, we're going to draw from all sources of history and science and whatever else we know.
Hmm.
But for Christians, would say like they're saying that the Christian God created the universe in like 7 days,
Hmm.
and that mankind was created on one day, and that you know, and way past that, after propagating the entire planet with all humans, that he sent his one son down here and
Hmm.
said some good words, which I don't actually like. I believe that there is a historical Jesus, like a real person. I just think he was an average person with no miracles and
Yeah, like
no
like
divine
his
things like
reputation
that.
is questionable. He's a real
But
person, but his
so, again,
reputation is
like
questionable.
he was, yeah, he died on the cross. He did not come back from the dead. but they still formed a religion after the guy died, and that's still
Yeah,
possible for someone
it's
to
funny.
keep a
It's
ball
funny
and run with it.
because like
Because again, like,
the people that saw him were supposedly his followers, right?
yeah,
So
again,
that seems a
people
little
that
too
to
convenient
them
for me.
have no reason to lie. Just like they have all the same reasons that you think a Mormon would lie about Joseph Smith talking to God and revealing stuff to the play. It's like if any Christian denies a Mormon and Joseph Smith for that, and you're like, because you didn't see it personally, then why would you accept that Jesus Christ came back from the dead, which is something that we know is medically impossible? It's just like the idea of a miracle that you didn't see, but you trust others not to lie is just kind of silly too.
But yeah, because it's basically it's confirmation bias essentially.
Again,
With
yeah,
a lot
and
of these
so if
people.
that's just and if Jesus is their proof that there is that the Judaic God exists and that the Judaic God, I'm sorry, created the whole universe and all that, because that's their entire proof is, well, we know Jesus Christ, and people don't lie about that because they would have got prosecuted or whatever their argument is. And that's, the same reasons like the Mormons got prosecuted for saying their crazy Mormon stuff at the start.
Yeah.
So of course people will get prosecuted for saying crazy stuff.
Mhm.
And in fact, like Jesus was prosecuted for saying crazy stuff. So again, like it's not unheard of.
Yeah, I think
It's very part of the human condition.
or at least like I'd put it this way for me because like I don't know if like you would put it this way. So I think like I don't know if you define yourself more so that like your actions speak louder than your words, but at least like this is how it is for me because I think I could be a Gnostic atheist like you, but I think it's more so in the lens that like yeah, it's like my actions speaking louder than my words because like I will give arguments in like refutation like towards God, but it's like I feel like I cannot intellectually be comfortable saying that there absolutely is no God. I can only say I don't believe in God because like it's
Well,
like
I want you to
I
explain that more because I don't understand. Like, where are you coming from this? Like, where is your idea of God? Because it would say like you
mm,
just we came in a culture where there was nobody spoke of religion because it was extremely taboo. So like
mm,
we're just raised in this weird atheist culture. So you have no idea of a concept of a God.
mm.
Where would you develop and create this idea of a God?
I mean
And like, what does he do? What it should like? What does he control? Like, how does he influence things?
yeah, no, I get that because like I've also asked like a lot of like religious people that, so it's just like you're gonna tell me that like for example people who have never even heard of Jesus are like gonna like burn in hell or something, and I've been told that like oh but he shows up in dreams, and I'm like what the fuck, bro? But like but I mean I don't know because like at least like when I do think of a god, I don't think I have to originally think of an idea in order to entertain that like it's possible because I think like at least my simplistic definition of God, I guess if you're like asking me, is that like a god that is
Created the
supposedly
universe.
responsible for this like existence essentially like it only exists essentially because he played the like he played world maker, I guess. I mean what
So, like this God could be outside of the Big Bang or before the Big Bang or outside of the universe. Because if the universe, if we agree, is just this weird bubble pushing out in weird
mhm.
ways, so there's space outside of our universe if we can kind of imagine that.
Yeah, but I mean like I
And
see
my
how
idea is
it's
there'll be
still
naturalism behind our universe still, but to me it's naturalism all the way down, no matter what we prove.
yeah I
It's
think
just going to be some natural phenomenon. Even life is a random natural phenomenon.
yeah because I think that's interesting actually because I think I know that a lot of like theists wouldn't say this, but honestly, I think even if there was a god, it could theoretically, because kind of like what I said, if there was a god, I imagine he created the world, but I think like it still wouldn't even explain like existence itself, because like for example, yeah, you've heard of Kalam cosmological argument, right? It's a pretty weak argument if you ask me. Yeah, like
I'm sorry, say that again. The
the
what argument?
the Kalam cosmological argument.
I'm not super familiar, I don't think.
It's the one that basically that like everything that begins to exist must have a cause. The universe began to exist, therefore, like i.e. God. It's a
Oh,
it's a pretty weak argument. So I think that like for example, at least like for me theoretically, I could believe there's a God, but I believe honestly it's kind of a weak cope because like it still wouldn't even solve the existential crisis because then it still begs the question, yeah, essentially like what is God made of? Is God a natural property and then he created other natural properties? So like I do agree with you in the sense that like we could technically reduce everything down to like a naturalist sort of thing, but then at the same time I don't necessarily believe that it would still erase the existence of God because like theoretically I've even entertained the idea okay, then how come God doesn't have an existential crisis? That's why I think his omniscience doesn't make any sense, because even if there's a higher being, and I'm defining God this way, and yeah, a supposed higher being who like created the universe and created the world, is his own existence just a coincidence? Then it would still beg that question. You know what I mean?
Well, it's because I mean, if he's outside of existence, this could be like a weird sci-fi story where it's just in another human world that he created an artificial little world where we're just in this little game or something.
Oh yeah, because like,
Like nothing,
sorry.
we can say anything. If someone is outside, we can say he looks, especially if we give into the idea that he looks just like us, or we're just in the image of whoever's outside of this universe. The
Mhm.
idea that we're in this micro universe or something outside of theirs, where they have influence in creation on ours. But again, like here's why I think we disprove this, because where the closer you look at things,
Mhm.
you said like the more we talk about naturalism, the things that goes away. But yeah, the closer we look at things, this idea and concept of God dissolves. And I always try to separate, cosmic universe discussions away from from Earth discussions, because Earth is just part of the universe, but
Mhm.
we're only part of the Earth, like we're
Yeah,
not really part of the universe in a sense.
we're like a tiny speck, basically. Yeah, yeah, sure.
Yeah, like the universe is unfathomably large, and it's just like, some people try to conceptualize the size of the universe, and it just blows you away of how microscopic and insignificant we are. So in a small way, I would add another label to myself. I would be an existential nihilist in the
Ooh,
way
very nice. Yeah.
that to the universe, human life doesn't mean anything. But
Mhm.
on, obviously a local Earth, human life means a lot of things to us. Like we have basic human rights. We care
We're
about
full of ourselves.
ourselves and others. We're full of ourselves also. But so like, but the same way that nature on Earth doesn't care about humans, and nature could totally wipe us out if it not if it wanted to, but it
Mhm.
could overtake us, because if we make the world unbalanced in nature, it could cause issues where we can't thrive or survive much longer. So again, human existence can go extinct on Earth, and Earth will be fine and just continue on. And there's many life forms that we agree are not. We agree we're not the only life form on
Mhm.
Earth, and we agree that beyond animals, we accept plant life, and we accept bacteria and
Yeah, yeah.
microbacteria life and
That's
other
why.
things.
Yeah.
So like we recognize all of these things as living organisms. And again, we think we're special as humans because we have our human mind,
Mhm.
and we're exploring our human condition. So everything is local to us on Earth. So like nothing that we think or do really applies or influences the universe,
Mhm.
and nothing the universe does affects humans per se, unless it's going to throw a meteor at us or throw a black hole at us or something. Then we're going to die. But
Yeah,
the
yeah.
idea is that we're part of the universe is because like our sun and sorry, our Earth is traveling around the sun.
Mhm.
And the sun is also traveling in the Milky Way across, around a super massive black hole.
Mhm.
And our Milky Way is also traveling around a circle of a giant other thing in the universe. And in space, it's just a big game of gravity and pull.
Mhm.
So we're just along for the ride, really.
Coincidentally, yeah. That's why, like,
We're,
yeah. That's why, like, overall, like,
Mhm.
yeah, I am still an atheist, just like you, because, like, I don't know if, like, you've also ever, like, thought about this way, like, why would a god, assuming that he, like, hypothetically did exist as well, like, that's why I think that, like, even if a god could exist, he would still be a flawed creature, not really this, like, perfect thing that, like, we conceive of him to, like, be, because I'm just like, if there was a god, wouldn't he already be the most content being in space? Like, why would he need to create people to like worship him, or like what? Does God still have like a small ego? Like, I guess just like humans in general, and he needs to be like worshipped and praised. Because like if you're like omniscient, omnipotent, then I'm just like, why would you not just be the most content single being in like throughout existence for eternity, right? At least like I've entertained that thought.
There's a lot of fun questions. And like, the idea of, we might just say the idea of the afterlife is a coping mechanism, but, it's a fun idea to create the idea of an afterlife. I can certainly create an awesome afterlife for myself,
Yeah.
and I can include everybody in it if they wanted.
Mhm.
Um, but
I guess
sorry, I
also,
lost my
yeah, I
train
think
of
like, yeah, actually, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I think just like the afterlife, I guess just like God in general is like the thing that I guess like ultimately makes me not fully deny God on my day-to-day life, but like not fully, because I think like humans created the afterlife I think on an idea that can neither be proven nor disproven. Because like the thing that I always ask religious people is like, okay, even if there is like a heaven or hell, even if you can prove that there is, yeah, those like places, how are you going to prove to me that like those things are going to last for like an eternity? Because I clearly do see it as a cope. I think we need an afterlife, and we need to believe that like there is going to be something forever, or at least religious people do anyway, because they have, it's a scary idea to a lot of them to think that like, oh, we're just going to be nothing after we die, because things that people can't fathom really well, such as like nothingness, it makes them super like uncomfortable. So to just think that like they're gonna like exist forever is, I guess, like the soothing cope, but it's like nobody can actually comprehend that. So I think that it's not impossible, but you still neither know it. So I think like at least like on that basis, I think an infinite being is not believable just because we can't actually, understand that. But just because we can't understand that, that doesn't mean we can't deny it either. That's what I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, a coping mechanism might just be one part of it. I mean, you can say there's other interesting parts because there's there's ceremony to it. There's sometimes justice to it if they think that their soul is going to be either put somewhere place, or if it's going to be reincarnated to something worse than their current life form. There's a lot of things in that idea of justice for the living that goes on that would give us comfort. So again, it's comfort for the people that might one day die, and it's comfort for the people that obviously live, that
Yeah.
want to have, some other kind of nice belief or ceremony where they can honor their dead. And
Yeah.
honoring your dead is a very fair human condition, and that's expressed in every valid way that any culture is thought of, I think, as long as it's not cannibalism. But
It
mostly,
sounds impossible to me, because I think like a lot of like afterlives are connected to like this like idea of like a soul. And I think this is something that
yeah, I don't believe it's so.
yeah, we could agree on, because I think like the question that I always have for people that believe in souls, I guess like religious people in general, is that like, okay, how are you going to prove that our consciousness can exist without like a functioning brain, for example? Because like, if like you were fucking mangled and killed and like all that stuff, like you would have like no consciousness. So the burden of proof for people that like believe in souls would have to be, okay, you would have to show that a consciousness can still happen without a functional human body, working biology, all that kind of stuff. And I've never seen any of them attempt to do that.
Yeah, or you can be generous and just give everything a soul, like some Eastern philosophy, which is another way to go, but doesn't make it true.
Mm-hmm.
You can give the river a soul, you can give the rock and tree and every other blade of grass and whatever else they want to hold sacred a tree, which is some things that I
Oh
think
wait, yeah.
Shintoism and other.
Didn't ancient Egyptians believe that everything is technically alive because we're all made of like matter or whatever? So we're all technically the
Yeah,
same thing.
exactly. So again, and even Hinduism is, again, it's a Hinduism is an Eastern philosophy, and it's harder to disprove Hinduism than it is to disprove Christianity, because Christianity puts itself more in a box, and
Mm-hmm.
Hinduism kind of goes along with more of the laws of nature, of naturalism.
Mm-hmm.
So they were like, of course we're right, because we're saying it's naturalism, and Brahma is the one that created the universe, and someone else will come through and destroy it, and that's what we're describing as entropy and energy and all this stuff. Then they were saying like, yep, we're good, we're golden. And you can't really argue or disprove the Hinduism angle, because they're arguing not creation, they're just arguing natural laws. So again, and it's just, but it's
With just
still
a
an
fancier
expression
label, I
of the
guess,
human
right?
condition, because but they want to understand the universe, and they understood the universe. But most people are trying to understand the human condition and control us, and control the human condition. We're trying to like weed out bad behavior and trying to live in peace and harmony.
Mm-hmm.
And if other people have a different set of ideas of ethics and peace and harmony that conflict with ours, we don't want our rights taken away. And then you have to battle with those people. And on a very local level, we did that forever. But
Mm-hmm.
now in a very connected world that we have today with like the internet,
Mm-hmm.
we can see everybody struggles, and we see, every culture and we see it as valid, and we don't see one as superior than the other. Or I
Man,
mean, we shouldn't. There's some people that do, but
honestly, like with all this like access to like information, it makes me struggle to believe in anything. I'm not even gonna cap with you.
I'm very positive for the human experience. Like I said, I'm all in existential nihilism in the sense that the universe has no care about the earth or even human life on it is
I agree
all.
with that.
And I would think the closest thing to maybe a god that influences humans would be nature, and we can personify nature as Mother Nature, right?
Oh, like
But you don't
I
really
do
do.
like Taoism. I do like Taoism, for example, like the
Well,
way.
yeah, again, because those are natural laws, and you know how that can mess with us. You know that we have to live in a certain kind of harmony, and we can't just, wipe out resources, and we can't destroy, we can't pollute our waters and, kill our things that's going to feed us. So again, like we have to go certain with natural laws. So of course, like
I'd like
those
to.
things will influence, but the universe doesn't influence any conditions on Earth. We get most of our conditions from Earth or from the sun. As long as that's going, we're good. But like
I'd like to
my
see you
idea
argue with an
is,
antinatalist or something.
yeah, my argument is, even if human life on planet Earth, like even if we get to peace and we just live in harmony, like eventually the sun is going to blow up and we won't be able to survive. So if we're ever going to be, if we're going to be stuck on Earth forever, like we have a natural end, and it's
Mhm.
not going to be infinity. We have many natural ends to humanity and
Do you
humankind
think
that could happen.
it's better that way? Because like I know like a lot of people would say that like the fact that it's like
No, I love
temporary is
humanity. I'm very positive. Like humans are awesome. Like
the only reason
humans
to
are
live.
wonderful. I'm a Yeah, I'm 100% serious. I think humans are wonderful and great, and I think the fact that we can recognize and be aware of shame and issues is how we contrast and make things better. If we couldn't identify things that were bad, we couldn't make them better.
Mhm.
So there's always, we couldn't. We always contrasting off something again, like, and that's our pattern in our brains where we can only notice differences, like, and we notice all those differences, like light and dark, um,
Mhm.
us versus them. You can't really have an idea of self without a sense of an other.
Mhm.
So there's always this kind of conflict of the other person, but there's always, yeah, some kind of duality.
Hmm. Yeah, I was gonna say that word specifically, duality. I don't I don't know what the opposite is of like someone that believes in things as a whole, but you should argue with that person.
Yeah.
Hmm. I'm not sure what else we can say. I think we spoke a little bit, but I guess like I don't know. I guess I'll try to
Well,
wrap it up
do you
then.
disagree with do you disagree with anything that we would say? Because, for instance, Christians might have to deny evolution, or they might have to deny some aspects to keep some of their faith intact,
Oh no,
and
I don't
some
disagree with evolution.
religions like that. You what?
I don't disagree with evolution.
Yeah. Well, do you disagree with any kind of current concept or idea of like how planets are formed? Because like planets exist everywhere in
Um,
the universe. They're just as natural. Like, so Earth isn't special in any kind of sense, even because it
oh,
has life on it doesn't make it
nihilism,
more special.
hell yeah. Like actually, yeah, me too. Honestly, if you watch the rest of my videos, you would see that I am actually a very like nihilistic person as well.
Yeah, I'm just trying to dial you in. I'm not saying we disagree on a lot, but
Oh yeah, but I think
it's good to know.
yeah, like I wanted to say that I actually do understand why you're a Gnostic atheist, but I guess like the thing I would ask is like, do you see as well why I'm an agnostic atheist? Because yeah, I think I tried to see if like this is obviously what you were saying, but I think like I'm only more like Gnostic atheist. I mean, on a very like practical level, it doesn't satisfy me intellectually or like mentally, but on a practical level, I am completely with you.
I don't understand a practical level of having a placeholder for a god.
Um, no, I mean like a practical level in the sense of like I'm not gonna act as though a god does exist. Like to me, it's more like it's like it could be possible, but like that it just ends there. Like it could be. It's not something that I have faith or something that I you
So
know.
what is your like percentage? Like I try to put a percentage on it. I said I was 99% sure that we would never be able to prove a god, and I gave 1% for doubt. Just for generosity. But what would you say your percent is? Like 50% that there could be a god then, or less, or more?
I mean like the lowest of the lowest, like 0.00 something. Because it's like I mean because like I guess technically because you mentioned like nihilism, for example, I like epistemological like nihilism even. So I think like technically I'm agnostic with everything that I believe, technically like at my core, because it's like on a philosophical level, I only know that I know nothing, because it's like I believe that there are things that you, because like basically if we did want to take like the hyper skeptic route, anybody could say something like, oh, how do you know that there won't be evidence one day that 3 + 3 = cheese or something, like, which is obviously very stupid, but it's like if you're asking about
That's a good one.
something that you don't know or can't comprehend possibly happening, it's basically an untestable hypothesis. So I think like then what would be the percentage of that then? Because I think the percentage of how much I believe that a god could exist is simply because, yeah, I agree with you. It's like, what are we even defining? So if we don't even know what we're defining specifically, we don't even know what we're talking about. So to me, it makes sense to not believe in it, but because we still don't know what we're talking about, you don't even know what you're denying still technically. But that makes more sense on a practical level. Like that's what I mean. I don't know if I
Well, again, I'm
cleared it
not
up.
I'm not having anti-belief to no stance. So again, I'm
Oh no,
only an
I get that.
atheist to like
It's what I
to
mean though.
Christians, or I'm only an atheist to Hinduism. I'm an atheist to like established known religions. I'd be an atheist to Greek mythology, I guess, if there's still a practice or people that practiced it. So again, it's a label that they put on me for my skepticism for something that they know they can't prove. And
Mhm.
most of these religions are dead and won't ever get proved. And if we're idea that, there's going to be some God, at
Oh,
least some
okay. Wait, hang on.
concept of a God that would be great,
I don't I don't
you
know if
know,
this I don't know if this is a good analogy to put it, but I think it's like I agree with you that like I am more nihilistic, but like absurdism, for example.
you can tell me
Oh, like
low or high.
I think like it's the more acceptable form of nihilism that people want to accept, because it's like basically Camus made this ideology that like there is no meaning to life, but you can always chase meaning. So it's more like there's no meaning in life except for like the pursuit of it. So I think at least for like God, I sort of like take this route, because like it kind of annoys me about absurdism is that like they know that they can't find meaning and yet they're going to act like they're doing that anyways. But so like to me it's like, oh, you're not really chasing meaning, you're just pretending, you're just like distracting yourself. I know that's what makes it the whole concept like absurd to begin with. So I don't know if you get what I'm putting down, because I guess like I'm not an absurdist. I can define, at least in terms of like meaning of life, that I believe that there is none. So I know I'm just distracting myself with like good copes, let's say for me, until like the day I die. But I guess like you help me put it in a way that I think better explains it. But at least like with God, I do think the concept is absurd to begin with. So that's sort of the angle I take. I'm not an absurdist, but I guess
Yeah.
maybe towards
Like
God.
we can say God is Superman, and that's like the perfect human who like is the embodiment of human hope and all this kind of stuff. And the best of humanity has to offer is the idea of Superman in the comics that just does good for the sake of
Hmm.
good, sacrifices and is selfish or selfless,
Hmm.
and is gives more than he takes, and doesn't ask for much and all this, and gives an easy philosophy of like truth, justice, and the American way.
Hmm.
It's easy, simple terms, and like he can do anything, and his real superpower is he can't be beat. So it's
Hmm.
like it's this unbreakable idea of truth, justice, and the American way, which is unbreakable. So like
Hmm.
that's a god. Like, and again, that's just me defining a god, and now we
Hmm.
have to argue and say like Superman isn't real, and I can say prove it, but whatever. And I can get really abstract and absurd, and I can say this is just the dimension where Superman is a comic book character, and other
Yeah.
dimensions Superman is real, and you
Hmm.
guys just can't reach the dimension where Superman is real, but I have a direct link to Superman in those dimensions, and he says suck it.
Hmm.
Like whatever.
Yeah, yeah, but
Like
then like
I
but then
can.
like you can see what I mean then, right? Or it's like, I mean, it's like I think maybe it
Well,
is just more
we don't know other universes exist, so again, like I can argue science fiction and say like you can't disprove this, and often I will go with like my time travel example, which I say is, like, I'll say someday in the future, I'll have a time travel machine. I
Mhm.
can't show it to you right now, but basically, I can do anything that I want. And as long as future me doesn't come back and stop me from doing something disastrous, it's okay for me to do it. I know it's going to be good and ethical and the best course of action. And I
Mhm.
can do that before I hold a gun to somebody in a public space or whatever the horrible thing where say I'm going to take away someone's rights or inflict my will on someone else's in
Mhm.
some manner, and I can say it's all good. future me didn't come back and stop me, you know. And you can't disprove that I won't have a time travel machine in the future.
Yeah, yeah. I think like yeah, because like essentially like that's just what it keeps sounding to me because it's like I think the idea of God is like so incomprehensible that it's like it sounds impossible either way to like prove it or disprove it. So I'm kind of just like I think we're forced to pick one because we are
But you agree
linear
that there's
human
no
beings.
time travel machine right now, right? Like there's
Okay, well,
no right now the science says it's impossible. So it would be a straight miracle to have a time machine. Like we agree
wait,
that
I
there's
thought time
no
travel was
science for
possible.
time
It's
travel.
just hard to accomplish. Like we know how to
No,
theoretically do
again,
it.
we're getting splitting hairs. Like to time travel, you can't go backwards in time. You can only go forwards in time by traveling at the speed of light because things become relative to the speed of light if you're traveling at the speed of light. So again,
I'm
like
gonna have to
time
double check
travel is
that shit
possible if you
again.
can go super fast because then you're gonna go 1 second into the future while we went, 1,000 years in the future.
Mhm.
So, but again, even science says backwards time travel is just science fiction. So again,
Mhm.
like to say that we know that backwards time travel is impossible because science has ruled it out. To say that no, really, in the future, I'm going to have a time travel machine, so I'm waiting for future me to stop me from doing anything
Well,
bad.
actually, yeah, that does make sense because I think like if we're talking about how like time doesn't really exist, so technically everything
Time
is
does
just
exist.
yeah, everything is just now, or at least like on a philosophical level.
There is a present, but we have a past, present, and future, and that's how
I
we
mean,
create the
I think
future
we
because
need a
we're using
past,
past
present, and a
events.
future to make sense of like because like we ourselves desire structure sort of thing. So it's like it's conceptual.
Well, yeah, in the sense that we bring if there's chaos, we will try to find and create order,
Mhm.
try to make sense of things. But again, like how we create
But
the
it's like, but I
future
think that
is
like I think the
everything
present is
is
closer to the
determined.
future. So that's why if there is time travel, I could see how yes, it would only be going faster through time because at least from how I comprehend it right now, yes, like right now is closer to like the next second, so it's closer to the future rather than the past.
Yeah, there's only the present, and again, how we create like if you're going to think about something in the future, you'd have to think about it first, and
Mhm.
you can still think about it 100 different things you want to do, or you can sit still and do nothing at all. But the second that you do nothing, or you choose one path, all the other 100, or I'm sorry, all the other 99 things you could have done don't matter anymore. So
Mhm.
again, it just things are relative. The only thing we can really say is everything is deterministic. Everything is influenced by the past. We make decisions from the moment,
Oh, so
to go into the
you're
future.
also a determinist in like in the sense would you say that like free will technically does not exist, it's an illusion?
Yeah, I guess I'd agree with that.
Yeah, yeah.
But so again, everything is deterministic in my view. So what everyone is talking about, at least through religion and what we're trying to explain and what's really important,
Mhm.
is not just explaining existence, because that's also a philosophical question and not just a religious question.
Mhm.
But again, religion is philosophy in a certain sense, the same way that it's, culture and ethics and a lot of things that, because it's all representative of what humans do and how we interpret things. So again, like everything is down to human and how we perceive our reality. And we know
Sure, sure.
that we're all Homo sapiens. So, in the theory of mind, we all know that we have, in a sense, the same reality or perceive it because we all have the same eyes and same evolution. And yeah, I know some people are, born with genetic disabilities or
Mhm.
other brain deficiencies or whatever else that might make them different. But, in the sense that all humans are the same, of course, we're going to have the
The same
same
species.
desires and same needs. And how we act is, like I said, every culture and how they influence things is because of, how scarce their resources were, how abundant their resources were, or
Mhm.
how much, other disease they had issues with, or whatever struggles they had where they had to maneuver to survive to keep
Mhm.
their people going. That became, the rule of law in a sense for them. Like so things that become sacred or divine, the same way in religion became sacred or divine in sense of like society, in the same that we enshrine monuments or documents or other things that say like this is the country. Same
Mhm.
thing with like, we kneel, or people would kneel in the UK to the king or queen
Yeah.
because they're not kneeling to a person, they're kneeling to the country in a sense, like, and they
Mhm.
represent the country. It's, we have symbolism, and that's fair, and things are important to us. So I really do think meaning or life has a lot of meaning, and I think it's really the most interesting. And again, humans are wonderful, and everything we do is pretty interesting.
I think yeah,
But I
like
recognize
life
we
has
have bad stuff.
interpretations. I don't know about meaning.
It has absolutely meaning. What do you mean it doesn't have meaning? Like, you can do whatever you want with your life. So again, if we're
Oh, wait,
having like,
I thought we were
what,
both
so
nihilists though.
well, I'm in existential nihilism in the sense that the universe and human life doesn't matter at all to the universe. So if any question of God is usually about, oh, the God created the universe, and somehow God through the universe influences human life on planet, it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Mhm.
So again, cosmic and is a different category to me than local Earth stuff.
Oh,
So
there is a
cosmic stuff,
cosmic form of nihilism.
yeah, I'm more of an existential nihilist. I'm in the cosmic sense, but on
Mhm.
Earth, where humans are and we have things, I'm absolutely pro humans, I guess. I'm not so much a nihilist. So I believe like you can do whatever you want with your life as long as you don't harm or kind of influence your will on someone else that negatively influences them, So again, like this is the idea of basic human rights or universal human rights, because at the start of time, when we're going through our human evolution, we were nomadic, where our culture might have been like 50 to 100 people where we lived, and we just had to agree with that set of people.
Mhm.
But now we have to agree. So it's easier to come with, human basic rights for your local tribe or
Mhm.
your local religion in a sense, because you can all manage that and agree and control that. And it's a decent size where it doesn't fall apart.
Yeah.
But
I
and
mean,
then on the
it's
local,
absurd.
on
It's
the
absurd to me
grander
though.
scale, as we got more connected, we realized that other cultures have also the basic human rights, and that
Mhm.
imposing our will on other religions or other cultures because they're different is wrong. Like, we're learning this idea that people have human rights and they're
Mhm.
universal. So
Yeah, yeah. So I think like it is
um,
absurd to me when people talk about how like you need religion in order to have like a moral sort of like function, even though more or less people typically do share, at least like in a lot of societies, what morals ought to be. I guess like the religion is just different in many cases, so I think it makes religion all the more shallow. Like, would you agree with that?
well, narrow or religion is just narrow because it's local to its people, and it started specifically with its super local people in that geographic area. And
Mhm.
then as people became connected and could grow, religion grew and became
Yeah,
whatever
no,
it
but
can be
what I think
dominant.
is funny, what I think is funny is when like a lot of like religious people are like, "Oh, if you don't believe in God, then like what's stopping you from like killing somebody or like doing this?" Even though
Yeah, that's kind of
we could
absurd.
ask them the same question and be like, "Okay, so if there wasn't a God, would you feel compelled to like kill somebody?" Because like, yeah, it's like the
Yeah,
same question could
yeah,
be
but
asked just the other way
they
around.
might have an impulse, and if they acted on the impulse, I'm sure they would feel a lot of guilt if, because people act on a lot of things that they don't want to actually act on. And that's just part of the human condition. And some people without religion may not be able to control themselves. So I agree that some people need that structure within religion, but some
Man,
people
makes it look like a scam
that
then. It's like it's
understand,
kind of funny.
yeah, some people that understand, just human rights and human culture, because we're not just one thing. We're all just a human people. Like, we're all we have a lot of sameness to us. Even though
Mhm.
we're all individuals and are different, there's everything that we need. Like, anything that you would need, you would argue as a person that you would need,
Mhm.
another human person also needs. You want a right to feel safe, and secure in your person. You want to have
Mhm.
privacy in your home. You want to have like access to food and water. Not so much access to a job, but that's like part of being in a country is, the right and access to a job, things like that. But just it being a human right, if we're just talking about like, not like you said, you were talking about religious rights, and where people get their rights is saying that you don't have rights unless you believe in my God.
Mhm.
And that's the conflict with other religions is, hey, you don't have the human rights to, you don't have the right to impose your will on mine because your God isn't real. It's like, when yours is, and people fight. But, and we do that now with country, with our values. And I think the American Constitution is a great source of human rights and a great secular document. And,
Yeah, it
but,
is
right,
separation between church and state,
everything
all
is,
that. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And and right now Christians in America are trying to fight for a certain sense of a political agenda for Christian nationalism, where they want a Christian government instead of a secular government, and they want to impose their Christian will on non-Christians. When we're talking about Americans here, they want
I mean, yeah.
Christian
So
Americans to
aside, I
impose
mean,
their will on non-religious Americans or different religious Americans, because
yeah,
other people are religious.
agnostic
So
atheist or gnostic atheist aside, I'm glad we're at least on the same team about that against those people.
well, yeah, it's clear what their political agenda is. I mean, not to change the whole subject, but the Project 2025 thing is Christian nationalist or Christian fascist, which is a very maybe a possibility that could happen. So we just don't know, and that's just something like we would like to say we know the result and it won't happen, but obviously we can't predict the future. Just like we can't say there's no God, we can't
Yo,
disprove it can't happen.
if I can get
So
like two people that believe in those things, we should debate against them if you're down.
no, that's why I'm on that place where you found me. So I just like to argue with people or I think I can at least talk to them and they can shitpost to me. I don't care.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, like more or less, I don't think we necessarily disagreed a lot. Like maybe it's just a semantical difference that we're kind of arguing. That's just kind of what's the word I'm
Yeah,
looking
I
for?
just don't understand your position. You're like, like you said, like if we agree that there was definitely no possibility of a time machine, like I would say, and we know right now that there is no time machine, then we would
Well,
say
did I
that
say
position
that?
is
I
an
don't know, because I'm just
agnostic
like I think
atheist.
I
But
think
so
it's
like,
yep, yep.
I just don't understand having a placeholder where like, obviously, yeah, anyone's mind can change. Like it's same with God or same with aliens or same with other things. And I'm perfectly accepting of
No, but I think
aliens
like
existing somewhere in the
see,
universe. And I think that
yeah,
kind
yeah.
of like your agnostic position is maybe I'm an agnostic alien theorist and your sense of the word,
I mean, I think like
because I can't disprove aliens.
yeah. So I think like I mean I don't know because like maybe it's a bit more I guess
But I can
like
prove that aliens can't come to Earth, like those kind of things.
yeah, it's a bit more like nonsensical to you, but I think like for me it's like I'm fine with saying that we both agree and disagree with each other, I guess.
Yeah, that's where it always comes down to, and that's cool.
Mhm. Well, I mean not even in a I respect like your position sort of way. Like I'm saying that like I'm right and you're wrong, but you're also right and I'm also wrong sort of way.
Okay. I'm not sure if I get that. I'm a little high again, but
I mean,
it was fun
I
chatting.
get it perfectly, but like you don't have to. But I think like okay, I guess like I think we wrapped it up there, like essentially. So I think this is a good stopping point.
Yeah, it was a fun talk.
Yeah. So is there I mean before I like end it though, like is there something you want to like shout out like social media or anything like I mean that's fine if you want to.
No, I'm not on any of that.
Okay. And by the way, you're fine with your Discord name being in the video, or do you want me to like cover that up?
That's okay. Yeah, you can show it. I don't really use Discord that much.
Okay. All right. But so everybody, if you've made it this far, if we've engaged you like whatsoever to this point, thank you for listening. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.